Too early. Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Pregame show. I think the earliest pregame we've ever done, live from the Toyota Lounge, powered by your Front Range Toyota dealerships. We got Bailey, we got Rudo coming to you as the Avs are taking on the Buffalo Sabres at a 10:30 Mountain, 12:30 local start on a Monday.
Ouch.
Totally normal hockey game. Definitely nothing weird going to happen.
Completely, yeah. Especially with the history these two teams have.
Right?
There's lots to look forward to.
No, going to be a very straightforward 3-2 game. Absolutely nothing weird.
No.
Before we even get into the game, the news of the day, Mackenzie Blackwood sent on a conditioning assignment to the AHL. So sounds like he's close. Sounds like he's probably going to play a game or two for the Eagles and then should be back with the Avs.
It's good news.
It is.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of the pressure off of Scott Wedgwood, which is never a bad thing, I will say. So
less pressure is better for everyone in general.
Absolutely.
I think let's go with that. Avs coming into this one, yes, it's a weird start. Yes, there's going to be some unexpected things. I'm preparing for that with every matinee game this year. Weird stuff just happens. But the Avs are coming off the loss to Dallas, their first loss of the season, even if they did get a point out of that game. Do you think they have a little bit extra in the tank for this one because of that?
I would think so, especially considering that they weren't disappointed in how they played.
Yeah.
Everybody came out of that game with we played to the best of our ability. We saw the best version of the power play come through this game, which I think is a win in and of itself, as that's been a huge struggle for this team lately. I think the only downside is you do have a Scott Wedgwood, again, who I think's got a lot of pressure on him with the starts that he maybe didn't expect to get a month ago.
Yep.
Coming out of this. But all in all, I don't think there's anything to be disappointed in regards to how they played on Saturday. There's a lot to take into for today.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird feeling, right? Because usually coming off of a loss, going into the next game, you're like, all right, here's all the things we want to fix. We need to do this, that. And I'm not saying the Avs played perfect the other night, but realistically, you have to think going into this game, they're saying if we play the same way, we're going to win.
I think if you go into a game playing like that in general, the Avalanche won't be coming away with very many games like Saturday.
I would agree.
If you play like that, this is a game that I think Jared Bednar is looking at and saying, you play like this every game of the season, I don't have much for you. Like, obviously, there are things to work on. There's obviously, like, you can take away film from every single game, good or bad. But this is a game that, again, I don't think they're disappointed in. I think you have a lot of good to take away from. You of course, want the second line to get going. You want the first and the third line to keep doing what they're doing. Not a lot of bad can happen if you continue to play that way.
I don't know about a martini game, DJ, but it's definitely a mimosa game.
Yeah.
Might be a little early for me for a martini, but I could do a mimosa on this one.
Mimosa would be nice, you know? Give me a little OJ, start my morning.
Is there any fear, given the last game, you're coming off the Avs playing so well, it's a high-caliber opponent in Dallas. Is this a little bit of a trap against a weaker team in Buffalo, or can the Avs keep that energy and put away a team that is, at least on paper, one of the weaker ones?
I look at this as the Buffalo Sabres have not gotten their first win.
They have not.
Yet.
It's true.
So I joked in the Discord that the hockey gods have already planned this game out, and the Avalanche are due for an unfortunate situation. No, there's always the fear of playing down to your opponent.
Yep.
I think and that's just a fear around the league in general. The Avalanche, I would hope, have the knowledge and the mindset that they are the better team here. And as long as they can stick in the mindset of, again, we played how we wanted to play. Let's keep that going and bring that energy into a game like this. I'm hoping this is a game where they kind of like beat the crap.
Yep.
This is a game where they should beat the crap out of their opponent.
You would hope so.
Ideally.
If it weren't a matinee, I'd feel more confident about it.
I think so.
But schedules get real weird. Who knows? All sorts of things look weird in matinee games that I just don't trust it at all.
Yeah.
But there are 15 matinee games this year. So the
That's
Avs,
a lot.
they need to get used to it.
Oh my gosh. I know there's a couple guys who are like, I like this. This gives me my afternoon. This gives me my evening to do what I want. I hate them.
But like, not really.
Not really.
But like, not really. Like, at all. Like,
I
we will
disagree.
still be working. Well, yeah, because you stay up till 4 in the morning. But like, for the rest of us, we're still working probably until like 5.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'll go home and do my review video, but this one's actually so early that it's like I might be done and there might be evening left.
Yeah,
The
right.
1 p.m. ones, yeah, you're
I
not
have a
done.
little free time
Yeah.
left in my day. That's not normal. No, I'm not a huge fan of these. I am a very big routine person, and I think some of these guys are too.
Oh, for
and that
sure.
kind of ruins that a little
Yeah.
bit. So there's also that aspect to take into account. Like a lot of these guys are coming off of travel yesterday to head
Yep.
into today, can't do their normal routines. Yes, it's 2 hours later for them, but at the same time, is it really when you're traveling? It's that quick of a turnaround.
Some of them are
between travel.
crazy enough to get up at 6 a.m. to keep their routine in place, maybe.
Some of them, or Brent Burns.
Yeah, it might be Brent Burns specific.
Nathan McKinnon, yeah.
On that note, since there are 15 games this year, make sure you're coming down to the DNVR bar for some of these matinee games. We have brunch and lunch menus that you guys can get. You can get those mimosas I was talking about earlier. Brunch for $13 or less. So really good deals. I personally love the breakfast burger with an egg on it. I would eat that for dinner. It
I
doesn't
feel like
matter.
that's a big Colorado thing, though, too.
It is a pretty Colorado.
Yeah.
We put eggs on a lot of stuff. But either way, yeah, come down to the bar. Great deals, especially if you're a diehard member, you get a discount at the bar. So come hang out with us. It's always a good time down here. We'll be open for puck drop today, even, if you want to swing by and say what's up. Continuing on with this game, Colorado is a team where there are a lot more expectations than Buffalo, right?
I would say so.
Every year, Buffalo is like, maybe this is the year they figure it out and squeak into the playoffs, whereas the Avs, they are battling for what should be the top of the Central Division.
Yep.
So do you put any stock into point streaks early in this season? Obviously, they lost the other night, but you got the overtime point. Is there something to trying to string that together early in the year?
Yes and no. I think every team, there's something to be said about the first 10-game streak being, or like 10-game segment of the season being the most chaotic. So this is, I think, an experimentation period for a lot of teams, just kind of trying to figure out exactly how the team is going to be configured. I think the Avalanche still have a ways to go in figuring that out. Obviously, they're going through some struggles, but point streaks are point streaks. I think they're fun things to pay attention to. I think they're cool accolades for guys.
Sure.
And establishing it that early on certainly doesn't hurt, in my opinion.
I mean, more points is better.
More points,
that is
absolutely.
facts.
Is that how math works?
Don't trust me. I could get it wrong, even when something that simple when it comes to math.
Yeah.
For the Avs specifically, as we look at their production so far through this season, you're starting to see some goal scorers emerge. Obviously, Martin H is on the top line, has 3 goals. McKinnon also has 2, and Leckie has 2. So great. Everyone on your top line is scoring. But you look down your lineup, that third line, it feels like Ross Colton is kind of the goal scorer right now. Olofsson has played well, but is more of a setup man on his 2 points than really being a major scoring threat. And then the fourth line is what it is. Obviously, Brindley scores the other day.
Yeah.
But who needs to be the goal scorer on the second line?
I think Nichushkin wants it, and he wants it bad.
Okay.
And if I'm going to give it to anybody based on how they've played through 3 games, that's probably my guy.
I think that's fair.
I think he's got an interesting way of bullying himself through the offensive zone. And if there's anybody who's going to kind of get that, it should be Nichushkin. I think Brock Nelson's starting to set himself up well for it as well. Getting some net front time. But if I'm going to give it to anybody on that line, I think it should be Nichushkin. Landeskog's kind of got his role.
Yep. I mean, I'll take it from anybody. I won't
Yeah.
complain, certainly. But I am curious how it starts to go in the back of the net for them. The Avs brought in Nelson to be a goal scorer, but he plays center. Landeskog, it's obviously up in the air. His career, he's been a lock for 20 goals, but who is Gabe Landeskog this year? We'll still
Right.
find out, especially
Again,
on that
3 games
offensive
in.
side. Right. But it's also 3 games where that line has 0 points together. Brock Nelson has a single point on the power play, and that's all that they've produced, which don't take it too much out of it, but if you get 0 points in 3 games, you're not producing enough as a top 6 player. Realistically, a 60-point pace, you need to be scoring 7 or 8 points out of every 10 games. So you would like to see that second line score in the remainder of this stretch of the first 10 games of the season.
I would agree. And I think they're getting there. I think Game 3 is the best that we've seen out of them so far. And in looking at statistics, the goals should be there. And I think if they continue to kind of amp up, I think Brock Nelson's got some improvement to do on positioning, things of that sort. Again, Landeskog's kind of got his role. You'd like to see a goal out of him. But again, he's kind of a question mark on this team so far. Ideally, it's all the pieces are in place for them to have that goal here in the next 2-3 games. Ideally, you want it today, but the pieces are there. The building blocks are there. It's just a matter of finishing, I think, is their biggest struggle right now.
So you mentioned this early part of the season is a time to experiment a little bit. You're 3 games into that second line and they haven't produced. It sounds like you're confident in leaving them together.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think if they're together today, obviously matinee games are weird ones we've discussed. I wouldn't mind through this 10-game stretch looking at potentially shuffling things around again with this experimentation period. I think it's the perfect time for that. Certainly not something you want to do unless you're seeing proper results later in the season.
Sure.
My big thing is when you look at training camp rosters and things that we saw during training camp, when you talk about an experimentation period, that's obviously the biggest one of them all.
Yeah. No pressure there.
Right. We saw a lot of Nichushkin on that top line.
It's true.
With McKinnon and Netchist. And while I think he was a little slow to start on that line during the first day of training camp, he looked phenomenal the rest of camp with them. And then you get to game 1 and all of a sudden he's on that second line.
He goes down, yeah.
Yeah. I would almost like to see them try that out.
All right.
A little bit. And if it doesn't work, okay, you can put it back on that second line.
Of course.
Obviously, maybe something's finally starting to click and work there. I wouldn't mind the experimentation, moving Lecky down, bringing Nichushkin up. I think they could certainly use a guy like Nichushkin who can kind of bully his way through people and bully his way towards the net.
I'm curious how it shakes out because it's hard for me to touch the first line just because of how well they've produced, especially after last game where it wasn't just the production. They were genuinely great in that game.
Right.
But if you feel like the second line needs a jump, you might have to do something with it.
Bednar's been known to shuffle lines around during games as well. If something is not working, I imagine we see maybe a shuffle during the second intermission heading into the third where maybe we're trying something out. And I think if the Avalanche get to a decent start, maybe that's something to try out. Now, again, it's Buffalo, so it's kind of a wild card, but
if you're up 3-0, it's a lot easier to try stuff for sure.
Right. So that's kind of where I stand, I think, on that.
Yeah, we did see maybe a shift or two the other night of Olofsson up in the lineup. I don't know that we'll see that again, or we could. I don't think it'll start that way for the record. But,
no. I think that third line is working well enough.
Yeah.
That you don't break that up that early in the game.
I wouldn't mess with anything to start the game. I would still like to see the second line as is, figure it out and get rolling. But, my job's not on the line when they fail to do it. So
we don't get paid the big bucks for that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different feel with Bednar trying to get him going at times. And that's kind of my question. If you're looking for someone that maybe has surprised you a little bit or has maybe earned a little bit more on this Avalanche lineup, who's the first guy that pops into your head for the Avs having surprised you, I guess, through these 3 games?
I feel like this is such an easy answer in Gavin Brindley.
Sure.
I think with how the fourth line works, you like to see a little bit more, but if you don't get as much out of them as you do the first three lines, I think that's a successful day for the Colorado Avalanche. Gavin Brindley has exceeded my expectations, and he gets rewarded for it in his first goal against Dallas on Saturday. Yep. I think if anybody has started to deserve a little bit more ice time, and even Bednar's kind of said this, it is Gavin Brindley. He's shown tenacity. He's shown he can keep up with the big guys. And if anybody, with his track record in the NHL, which is not much, I think he's...
Exactly 3 games.
Right, exactly. So I think there's a lot to be said and taken away from that situation, and Gavin Brindley having earned his spot on this roster. Again, a guy who we did not think would be here.
Yeah, it's going to become an interesting conversation with Brindley pretty quickly here. One, because of the Bardakov thing, do you get him into the lineup? But also, what do you do when LLC comes back? Somebody has to come out of the lineup. But
and I unfortunately think Gavin Brindley's going to
me too.
Bite the bullet.
As much as I don't want it to be him.
Right.
But,
but he's making the most of the situation he has at hand right now. Obviously, you go into this with Bardakov being the ideal 4C, but Brindley's making it a little hard for them to pursue that the way that they wanted to.
He's making them make decisions for sure.
Yeah.
All right. A little bit of a sidetrack that I don't expect to impact this game, but we are expecting the same lineup. With Slovyov in on the defensive side. Jack Ashon expected to be the scratch who was called up for the road trip to be that 7th D with Sam Girard injured. But now that we know Blackwood is going on a conditioning stint, probably not that far away, do you try to get Trent Miner into a game if you're the Colorado Avalanche here? Because Blackwood's timeline right now looks like it might perfectly line up for that back-to-back next weekend, and Miner might just miss out on that opportunity to get into a game.
I think if the Avalanche continue to play the way that they are in front of Wedgwood, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think Miner's a good backup option to have if you need to deploy that.
Yep.
But I think if Wedgwood didn't have the best game on Saturday, but I don't think it was his worst by far.
Oh, for sure.
And as long as that is the situation you're dealing with, I don't see a reason to change anything at all. And if knowing Bednar the way that we know him, I don't see him taking that chance with Trent Miner. I see he's somebody who is very confident in his starter, and if he has a good starter in Scott Wedgwood, at least until Blackwood comes back, I don't think he changes that up at all.
Yeah, I tend to agree, especially with goalies. Even in back-to-back situation, if Bedsy feels like he needs it, he'll run his number one when he needs to. So
I feel like back-to-backs are bit of a wild card with Bednar as well. You run into that situation again where he is very trusting in his starter, but at the same time, depending on the teams they're going in to the back-to-back with.
Yeah, it's a fair point. It does. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into that context-wise and things like that. So it's just a tough read for me. I wouldn't hate seeing Miner get into a game.
No.
Just because he's a guy that has earned the third goalie spot or whatever you want to call it this year. He's going to have been up for the team for about 2 weeks now. Yeah. By the time Blackwood
is holding down the fort.
Yeah, Posh played just fine. Pitched a shutout over the weekend, so the Eagles are doing fine. But I would like to see him actually get a little bit of play. Maybe there are some easier teams on this road trip that you could sneak away with one with him. But ultimately, I'm probably more focused on the Avs continuing to develop what they're doing with their skaters on the ice and focusing on that side of things, which brings me back to the matinee weirdness. Obviously, we will be having a bunch of takeaways in our postgame from this, but if you're the Colorado Avalanche, kind of no matter what happens in this game, whether you blow them out 7-0, you lose 7-0, how much do you really take away from a matinee game as a hockey team?
I think you look at it like you look at any other game, really. I think for us, we tend to be a little more on the weird side because it is an early game and we're kind of, we have our own superstitions and things of that sort. I think with players, it is really any other game. Like it's still, there's 2 teams on the ice, there's 5 guys out there with a goalie on each side. This is any other game, I think, for them. And just like any other game, they're going to look to come out of this with a win. I don't think there's any weirdness aside from, okay, what do I do with the rest of my day after this?
Yeah. So. Are there things to do in Buffalo? I don't know. I've heard it's not the best city, but
I wouldn't know.
Me neither. Anyway, is that part of is the weirdness maybe something the Avs should lean into this year? We mentioned the number of matinees. You're asking some guys to get going. You talked about, hey, it throws some guys off because of routine reasons. Do you look to some guys to thrive in that a little bit more chaotic? Miles Wood doesn't play here anymore, and he was the chaos monster for a while. But can some of the Avs channel a little bit of that energy tonight, maybe?
You hope. I think especially with how much we're still looking at getting out of some guys. Again, you already see the first line getting going. You see the third line already sort of thriving in their own right. I think if there's any weirdness to lean into that could be a positive impact on this team, absolutely lean into it. But don't fix what's not broken.
That is definitely
in a way.
true.
I think there is something to be said about not messing with things if they are working. If they're not, obviously you want to mess around with things, move them around a little bit, lean into some of that potential weirdness. But I think the Avs are fine.
Can we convince the Buffalo fans to boo the power play like McKinnon wants?
I'm still convinced that McKinnon was hearing things wrong.
I think so too.
I am of the mindset when they were booing when Rantanen was out there. They were booing when Duchesne was out there. I don't think McKinnon realized that they were not booing the power play, at least from my perspective.
Or maybe it was the classic shoot and he hurt, I don't know.
No. It was so funny. I had to control myself laughing on the way down to the media lounge. It was so funny.
Poor boy.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what works, maybe that's the weirdness the Avalanche lean into moving on.
It is a little weird.
That's the shtick.
Someone put an AirPod in McKinnon's helmet that boos when the power play happens or something.
Oh my God. Can we make that happen, Avalanche staff, please? Yeah, that's it.
His point is accurate, though, in that interview. Mm-hmm. The power play looked great the other night, even if they only scored on one of those. Mm-hmm. So I guess my question there is the Avs power play has produced fine through 3 games. They've scored one in every game, even if, a 1-for-6, a 1-for-5, it might not be the most efficient. At what point does a good power play looks-wise stop being enough, and when do they really need to start producing on it more consistently?
That I think is a hard one for me, because I think obviously frustration becomes a factor at that point, and good becomes not good enough.
Yep.
And that's the thing that I think they're going to start to struggle with here in the next few games is, if it looks this good, why is the puck not going in the net? Are they finding too much traffic? Do they need to, are there more seam passes that they need to create? How are lanes working in that sense? And at that point, maybe Dave Haxtell needs to do a little bit more reframing and reforming, because he really is going into this with a mindset like he's got the talent and there's not much to change from that. They know what they're doing.
Yep.
I can maybe provide a few techniques here and there, but otherwise, I think he really is going into this with a don't fix what's not broken type mentality. Maybe that's something that starts to shift here in the next couple of days, and he kind of assesses and says, okay, why is the puck not going in the net, and what can we do about it?
My question there is the second unit, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first unit looked fantastic
Absolutely.
the other night. The second unit, it feels like they're missing an entry guy.
Yeah.
They struggled to get in the zone a handful of times. It felt a little bit sloppy and unconnected. And even you don't even really know how they're set up on the back end. Sometimes it's Devon Taves, sometimes it's Brent Burns, sometimes it's both of them. Mm-hmm. I'm not touching McKinnon and Nate just right now the way they're playing. I'm just not separating them even on the power play. But it does feel like they may need to look for an answer on that second unit sooner than anything they do on the top unit.
And that's where the question it kind of comes into play with McKinnon and Nate just playing as well as they are. It would be awesome if the Avalanche had a third player like that they could move down onto the third line, because right now the first unit is a transition machine. Yeah. But it becomes an issue of, with the first unit working that well, how can we translate that to the second unit? And the Avalanche just don't have a guy that thrives.
They
like
don't.
That.
And that's fine. The second unit has some time to figure it out, but I do think Avs fans, the Avsosphere and myself, have some PTSD of, if that second unit continues to be bad, does Bednar just stop playing it entirely?
And that becomes, an issue in and of itself, because Bednar did mention with having the ideal pieces to create a good second unit, he wanted to deploy them somewhat in equal.
Yep.
And I think with the way that it's working right now, you're not going to see that.
No.
At all in any situation.
No chance.
At least not until somebody finds some sort of juice on that second line.
They start scoring.
Ideally, it should be, Olofsson with him down on that unit. He should
be the shooter.
He should be. But I think the issue that they're running into is a lot of their confusions coming on that back end with not knowing whether it's going to be Burns or Taves on there, when a lot of that confusion should be happening a little closer to the net.
For sure.
In my opinion.
I do agree. All right, let's move into our crystal ball segment. Bailey, give me a score for the night and give me someone you think is going to score.
Give me 4-3.
Okay.
Give me Valeri Nichushkin.
I like it. I like both of those answers. I want to see the second line get on the board. I really do.
Yep.
It's a matinee, so I'm going big. Someone's putting up a 6 spot. I'm gonna go 6-2 Avs on this one. And you'll see it in my bets in a second. But I'm taking Cale Makar to put one in the back of the net. Against not Jake Ottinger, Cale Makar knows how to score.
I was going to say, he almost had it on Saturday.
Yeah, it was close, but Ottinger's just got his number at times, it feels like. But I'm taking Makar to put one in there. We can jump in to our pre-game picks, which are presented by Bet365, where it is, of course, never ordinary. As I mentioned, I did take the Cale Makar goal. Also took the Avs to cover at plus 145. And then I did get a Landy point in there. I do want to see some of that production from the second line.
So you're expecting big things from the second line today?
I am. If they're getting a 6, a couple of those goals got to come from line number 2. So I want them to produce. I think Buffalo is a team the Avs should be able to take advantage of when you're looking at being able to dial up the offense a little bit more. If you're looking, I don't want to call it a get-right game this early in the season because it's only game 4, but the Avs did take a loss in their last one. You know someone like Gabe Landeskog feels the energy a little bit more, feels that burn to want to have that bounce-back game, wants to perform as not just the captain of this team, but a guy who's getting his feet back under him in the NHL in general.
Yeah.
So I do expect that line to step up a little bit. Of course, if you want to bet with me, you can jump on. I've been hitting a lot so far this season, but if you think I'm dumb, you can make your own bets. Plenty of options over at Bet365. Make sure when you gamble with them that you are 21 or older, physically located in Colorado, and if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. Just a few minutes left in pregame here, Bailey. Do you have any final thoughts or specific shout-outs you want to get into for this one?
No, I think we've kind of touched on everything. Would love to see the second line get going. That's my, I think, big goal. If there's anything to take away from this game, yes, there's some improvement defensively. For the most part, offensively, I think they played a great game. They can continue to play like that, and the second line can finally maybe get some puck luck to go their way.
That would be nice.
That is my main goal, I think, for this game, and I think that's where the Avalanche would like to head, as well as getting production down all 3 lines.
I'm glad you mentioned the defense, too. Kinks are going to get worked out. Mistakes I'm not all that worried about, but I would like them to settle in a little bit. If Girard is week to week, this is your new normal. Let's sort out those bottom 2 pairings and find something you can live with. I know Solovyov does not have a ton of NHL experience, but playing a defenseman 9 minutes a night is tough.
Yeah. Especially when you're playing next to a guy like Brent Burns, who's supposed to eat minutes.
And Burns hit 20 last game, so you got to find your spots to get Solovyov in there. I know that we went to overtime the other night, but Makar playing 28 minutes a night, just like that again. You just can't keep doing that to him forever. So,
nope.
All right. I guess that just about makes it. We do have a watch along coming your way. If that's your thing, come join us for that in a few minutes. And if not, make sure you join us after the game. No matter what happens, we'll be breaking it all down for you. We appreciate y'all. This has been the DNVR Avalanche pregame show, and enjoy Puck Drop.
We all silly like the mayor.